And Tushar, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Imagine Middle East virtual panel discussion. For those of you who have joined us just now, my name is Tushar Chawla, and I'm the Group Business Manager at Westcon Comstore. As we mentioned earlier, one of the main aims of the Imagine event has been to understand the evolving IT needs for the customers and for us to together explore opportunities around futuristic technologies and solutions that can help the customers in the new normal. During our earlier panel discussion, we got insights from many IT leaders across the region regarding how COVID-19 has fast tracked digital transformation. I would like to introduce Adele, who will be joining me to co-host the panel today. Adele is the editor at Tahultech and Security Advisor Middle East. Hi, Adele. Welcome to the panel.
Hi, Tushar. It's a pleasure to be here and to co-host the panel with you today. As we all know, the current landscape is continuously pushing organizations to find new ways to innovate, and many enterprises are accelerating their digital agendas. To shed some light on how the market is evolving, I would like to welcome our esteemed lineup of panelists who will be joining today's session. First up, we have Tarek Kuzbari, the Regional Director for Middle East and Turkey at CyberReason. Hi, Tarek.
Hi, Adele. Hi, Tushar. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Welcome to the panel, Tarek.
Welcome. Next, we have Sumed Ganpate, the Senior Collaboration Practice Leader for EMEA and APAC at Avaya. Welcome, Sumed.
Thanks,
Hi,
Adil. Hey, Tushar and
Hey,
team.
welcome to the panel.
Great to have having been on this platform. Looking
Thank you.
forward.
Then we have Hubert Griffin, the VP of Sales for MENA and Orange Group at Oracle Communications. Welcome, Hubert.
Thank you, Adele. Thank you, Tushar. Hello, everybody. It's a real pleasure to attend this video panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Then we have Orlando Pineda, the Director of IT Infrastructure at Atlantis. Welcome, Orlando.
Hi, thank you, Adele, Tushar. Happy to be with you today, guys.
Thanks, Orlando. Thank you for joining us.
Next, we have Yvonne Spiller, the Director of Risk and Quality Management at Affinax Partners. Welcome, Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne. Welcome to the
Hi, Giselle. Hi, Adele. Thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Next, we have Ahmed Sedki, the GM and Head of Product Development at Vodafone Egypt. Welcome, Ahmed.
Hello, team. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Thank you. Then we have Kapil Mata, the founder at Cyber Resilient Group. Welcome,
Hi.
Kapil.
Welcome to the panel.
Hi, Adele. Hi, Tushar. Thank you so much for joining. Adding me in the panel. Thanks.
And later on, we will be joined by Maher Kotob, the Systems Engineering Channel Team Lead at Palo Alto Networks. Over to you, Tushar.
Thank you, Adele. Thanks for introducing our panel today, and a very warm welcome to all of you. So, as we know, the enterprises today, one of the aftermaths of COVID-19 crisis has been the dramatic uptake in the use of digital technologies. All pre-COVID digitalization strategies had to be reimagined and to be addressed to meet today's business needs. However, a key factor for IT leaders is to keep in mind how these strategies can support the requirements of a post-COVID era. So through our panel today, we would like to explore what futuristic technologies would customers need to support them in the new normal. Yeah, so we will be asking you guys a couple of questions, and it would be great to hear your thoughts and get your insights. So to start the discussion, I would like to address my first question to Kapil. Kapil, what are the defining characteristics of digital transformation, and how important is it to devise a robust roadmap before you undertake this journey? So if you can just share your insights on this.
Sure, Tushar. Thanks. Well, to be very honest, when you look at a digital transformation in terms of a journey, right? So you probably say where do we start? So it has to be a top-down approach, and it can't be in isolation. So you need to have all your BU heads or your senior leadership team, all key people involved in it, so that everybody puts in their efforts, everybody understands what their goals are, what we really need to achieve out of it. So that's part one in terms of what you want to achieve in terms of your digital transformation journey. Then B is in terms of this journey has to be very realistic in terms of what your customers are needing. That's the way, I mean, that's very imperative to have, what's in mind in terms of what is the customers need. And C, I would say, when you're doing this entire digital transformation, so it's just not one application, right? You need to have a complete 360-degree turnaround in terms of, let's say, if you are a company that deals with, let's say if it's a bank, or so you would probably say, okay, you have retail banking. Then if it's a retail banking, they need to have, let's say, during the COVID era as well, you should need to have customer experience and the customer journey in such a simplified and defined manner that it can be done within few seconds, right? Because you need to grab the customer's attention and make sure that the journey is absolutely simple and easy for them. So I would say that these would be the key points or the key takeaways for any company or any organization when they're really looking at digital transformation in terms of defining that.
Thank you, Kapil. Thank you for your insights. I think that has kind of given us the foundation, to take this discussion ahead. And my next question is to Ahmed Siddiqui, who is the GM head of product development at Vodafone Egypt. If you can, talk a little bit about how do businesses and IT leaders ensure that they are investing in the technology which are future. So as we move, everything is evolving. So how do these business leaders make sure that their investments are future?
From my side, I see that the digital transformation, as Kabil just said, is how we develop our product and how it's fulfill our customer need in the short term of 2 to 3 years, because the dynamics is much faster than waiting for long term to design. So in digital transformation journeys, that usually IT or the overall enterprises manage it in the three journeys in my view. The first one is digitizing their relation with the customer relationship. Second one is digitizing the workplace, and those two journeys provide a lot of data that comes with the digital business and how to make use of this data using the new technologies to support the business strategy and business growth overall. So starting from this point, what is our need? What's the customer need? How to digitize these three journey in specific? How to use the relevant products from cloud services for fastening the process, for the expected resilience for the going forward technologies. This is how I can see the enterprises is moving in that domain. So the cloud service adoption is number one for that. The automation inside out from digitizing the workplace, and the automation to save time and money and effort with the customer interface should be the priorities now for both enterprises. And we internally in Vodafone are serving around 270k thousand enterprise across the region. This is what we say to the customer. So you start this digitization process, and we support that.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you for your inputs here. And since we have a very diverse, I would now like to
You hear
involve
me?
Daniel, who is the head of IT at Atlantic Japan. I would like to get some perspective from the hospitality sector. Yeah. So Orlando, if you can, talk about digital transformation a little bit more, because what we have seen is that there has been an exponential rise in companies going for digital transformation, but still there seems to be some confusion out there. A lot of organizations, they believe or they claim that they are undergoing the digital transformation. Actually, it's not so much of a digital transformation as digitization. So if you can share your thoughts on this matter?
Thank you, Tushar, for the question. Actually, it's a very interesting question. It's very relevant because we have faced that dilemma, whether are we dealing with a new situation where this is digital transformation or this is just digitalization of a process. And by experience, we have actually discovered what digital transformation versus digitalization encompasses. So when you speak about digital transformation in general, you're describing basically a business evolution. So that involves digital technologies. Of course, you are bringing technology into those businesses, but you have to specify where are you applying the technology. You are creating or modifying business processes. You are modifying the culture around it. That means depending on which vertical. In this case, Atlantis, the Palm, hospitality. That culture around hospitality, and also very importantly, is the customer experience. So these three aspects of the business have to evolve with the adoption of technology. When it comes to digitalization, it's part of the digital transformation. When you talk about business processes as one of the three areas that actually technology touches on, once you take a business process and you digitalize it, basically you change it from analog to digital. You can give you an example. Recently, our valet parking, we were usually, if you go to Atlantis, you receive a small ticket like any other place. You used to give your car to the valet. Now we're having a system where you have, perhaps you have a card, or further on, you can have a system where if you give your email, you can even have digitalization, having a token on your email or on your phone. If it's a touchless technology, you don't want to touch. That's another dilemma now in the new reality. You don't want to touch things anymore, and that's what we're perceiving from the guests. So having that specific activity and just going from analog to digital, that is digitalization. Now, that's a part of the bigger spectrum of areas that we need to address to achieve the real digital transformation. So in our hotel, we have many areas where we have already worked on digital transformation, starting from restaurant ordering, retail shop ordering, valet parking, the access to the water park, the diversity of bookings. You have bookings for restaurants, for activities in the water park, spa, and all those areas have been touched by digital transformation. We're finding ways to actually reimagine the whole business in the digital age. At the back of that, I think it's very interesting to also notice we have been forced in a way to start looking strongly at the cloud part or component of digital transformation. Because in the end, you're adding systems that will gather information, will bring you more data, not necessarily intelligence, but data, that which is raw and is massive. And you need to start to have technologies behind that actually make use of that data and somehow establish a certain analysis on that data collection that will bring forecasting and will bring intelligence that will help us to be on the cutting edge of what we do in hospitality. So that aspect of cloud, I think, is also very essential for digital transformation in the way that we have perceived. So all in all, I think digital transformation is more and more relevant nowadays, especially with the new normal, because I believe only companies who can surf the wave of digital transformation correctly are the companies that are going to be resilient and are going to endure in the future.
Thank you, Orlando. Thanks for sharing your insights there. Really helpful with the examples that you have given. I guess, as I said, there is a lot of confusion out there, yeah. But I'm sure that through these examples, yeah, people will be able to get a little more clarity around the journey that needs to be endured in terms of digital transformation. We'll now move on to the next important topic that we have, which is around remote working and the new way of working. So over to you, Adele, yeah, to take the discussion ahead.
Thanks, Tushar. Just building up on what Orlando had discussed, obviously digital transformation is more than, as you said, it's more than just adopting the latest technologies. It's about ensuring that these technologies, these digital solutions, bring the best value to the business. That being said, as we all know, during the last few months, everyone across the world, across so many industries, had to fast track or accelerate their digital transformation strategies. I just would like to ask Orlando again, how do you think has this, has the changes or have the changes over the last few months evolved the IT needs of enterprises today in this age they call the new normal?
Well, I think in general, it's a reality. We have been all affected, no matter which vertical you are, with the situation of COVID. But specifically, hospitality, together with, I would say, airlines around the world, have been one of the most hardly hit. Based on basically the nature of the business is volume of visitors or volume of people using the service. It has been very critical for hospitality to adapt quickly to the new normal. Some other companies might have more flexibility when it comes to working from home, but for us, we are basically the hosts or esteemed guests. We need to be presentially here, and still we need to adapt to maintain the distance, to keep the compliance in terms of safety regulations, health, sanitization, etc. So the requirements that come behind that to IT, they are very, I would say, urgent in nature. Sometimes it's overnight. You need to implement a new technology to enable a new requirement, and they are very agile as well. So a lot of changes happens after you implement, and backs and forth used to get it right and to get what the business is expecting in accordance with the regulations and the customer experience. So a strong sense of urgency, also the ability to work with very low budgets. That's another thing, because as you notice, the business went down, but still you have requirements. You need to fulfill those requirements with technology. There is money involved for the technology, which sometimes is not available right away. So effectiveness in terms of how you manage that budget, how you manage the technology, and that is when it comes to very, very importantly, when it comes along the importance to discuss and to identify the right partner and the right vendor. So we have seen different colors now coming out of this situation, different partners being more able than others to react, and different vendors being more able than others that enable the new realities of COVID. So it has been quite of a revelation, I would say, having these new needs in the new normal, to discover new facets from the partners and vendors in terms of how quickly, how agile, and especially how much understanding sometimes they have about what we do. That's also something that is very critical. Companies that take the effort to understand the needs of a specific vertical to the level of feeling what we're feeling in terms of the needs and the IT requirements. Those are the companies that actually can succeed in giving the customer, as Atlantis is the customer of them, the experience that we need and build the loyalty and build the trust through these difficult times. So in summary, the urgency, the agility is required more and more, and the flexibility with low budgets and the strong partnership with partners and vendors bringing technology to us. I think those are the evolution of the new things in the new normal.
Thank you so much for sharing those amazing insights, Orlando. Another key issue that surfaced during this new normal that we're calling is as workforces adapt to a remote working infrastructure, workplaces are becoming more fragmented and business networks are being exposed to countless untrusted networks and unsanctioned devices, which many threat actors are taking advantage of. And typically, these kinds of vulnerabilities often cause disruptions to business continuity. With this in mind, I'd like to ask Kapil if you can share one or two best practices that businesses today can apply or adopt to better protect their assets and their organizations.
Thanks, Adele. Thanks. Yes, definitely. So, look, I'll be very honest. You know how it is. Like cybersecurity is basically for everyone. And the IT leaders need to basically involve the leadership team to be a part of the change, to imbibe in the culture of the organization. And when I say that, I would say that there are 2 points, two sides of the coins to focus upon. One being the organization, second being the employee as well. So the best practices that we actually, I would probably say that we help our clients work around are more in terms of, initially, as you know, like, in organizations, employees are working behind the firewall. So that's no longer the new norm. And apart from the routine perimeter checks, the endpoint security, the VPN, etc., in place, the key important role for a CISO and with the IT operations team is to have a fair visibility of all their IPs. And when I say IPs, that's the big change in approach. It's not the device, it's the IPs, because we really don't know who's actually the employee here, right? We would not know who's actually accessing what kind of data. So a single platform that can provide visibility in terms of all the DNS and DHCP records. So when I say that, it means basically all the IPs are located in different VLANs, different places, different people are connecting from different areas. So that needs to be, in a nutshell, it should give you a good visibility in terms of what where your IPs are communicating outside to the outside world and who is communicating back into the organization in terms of the data. That's one. And then the threats and vulnerabilities on those devices, or and how do you want to operationally fix them through a single pane of glass? That's the key issue. That's the new thing that we need to really focus upon. That's one. The second part here is in terms of, the second most important thing is to basically reduce the threat surface. It has been from ages that employee endpoints are the most targeted, across decades now, I would say. And, different users have different behaviors, but still there's a blind spot. It's been like decades, but still we have the same blind spot where, vendors are focusing upon behavioral risk of users in terms of endpoint, and it's a platform driven thing, but nobody is focusing in terms of how can we look at this blind spot and probably look in terms of eradicating that. So the new approach is to have I would say a risk assessment on the systems, on the endpoints, to pinpoint the loopholes. That's the key area again. And third and foremost, I would say that a constant communication with your key leadership team and also with your employees, in terms of doing virtual reiteration tools. When I say virtual reiteration tools here, I mean to say in terms of, your wallpapers, short videos, security awareness workshops, quizzes, etc. That's from the organization perspective. Now, you also have to actually see in terms of what an employee needs to do when they're basically back home working for the organization. A very simple hygiene check for any employee that works from home is basically to have a must to have is basically an encryption on home router. So look at a WPA2 or a WPA3 kind of encryption, which is very simple and easy. Routers are today plug and play these days. And also to have a segregation. This is the most imperative thing, is to have a segregation of SSIDs. Reason why I say that, if you are having a separate SSID for your work environment within your house, and then the rest of your other house devices, because we have in our house currently, we have many, smart devices which are connected to our network, segregate them, because the hackers know that if you can segregate with different SSIDs, it's the simplest thing, but you can be more protected. That's one part of the story. That's from a hygiene check point of view. The second thing, what we really look at is ensure an endpoint is having, basically your endpoint should have latest versions of your endpoint security, or your OS is being updated, etc. So which apparently can be still, done from an organization perspective as well from the background. And third is also have a complex password. We know that, we have been saying that time and again, but again, I'm still reiterating the same fact. Have a more complex password on your company provided devices, also on your own personal devices and applications, and have multi-factor authentication. And end of the day, even if a hacker can hack your device, if you have an MFA on the on the application, it will basically solve your purpose, right? So one cannot have access beyond that. And as I said, visual reiteration tools such as your wallpapers, short videos, awareness sessions, quizzes, etc., should be the focus as far as user behavior is concerned, or an employee needs to actually go through those kind of trainings as well. So these are things that we actually speak to, advise our clients or advise our organizations across when they look at the new norm here.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kapil, sharing those insights and those best practices which a lot of organizations can adopt. As we Thank you. As we mentioned earlier in the panel, one of the biggest changes brought by the ongoing pandemic is the transformation of the way in which people work. As enterprises slowly ease into working from office again, many global companies, including giants like Google, Twitter, Microsoft, they have opted out for remote working operation. So what we are seeing is basically a hybrid model evolve. So I would now like to involve Yvonne, who is Director Risk and Quality Management at Affiniax Partners, into the discussion. Yeah. And my question is that can we expect a similar hybrid model of working in the Middle East as well? Do you feel that a lot of companies will continue with a certain percentage of their employees working from their homes?
If companies can embrace the hybrid way of working, that should be very flexible for the working base, using a remote access and doing rosters. So that would work really, really well for them. Staff need to be comfortable with working from home, knowing that a management system is in place looking after them as well. We have to think of their wellness with them working remotely. Also, it promotes more responsibility and accountability within their companies, which is very important. Obviously, some business sectors it will be impossible for them to do it. But developing in processes and procedures like a management system like ISO, this actually can help their staff and also deal with social distancing for lunches, staggering work periods, hand sanitizers, masks, regular embedment meetings, which will help them with all the regulations that have been brought in by the UAE government. So yes, I really do think that we're not going to get back to the norm, but a hybrid way of working is
Thanks
the
for
future.
your input, Yvonne. If you can also now, share your thoughts about the solutions and the technologies, the IT technologies that organizations should consider in order to successfully adapt to this new hybrid
Yeah.
way of working.
I always say clear processes and procedures in a business is important. Regular staff meetings using Microsoft Teams or Zoom, accountability and responsibility for everyone within the company is important as well. To ensure that all staff are have the ability to work remotely is important. You don't know what their home life is like, but you assume that they can actually work with the internet, have the cloud, and also being able to store all their work safely without having any hacking happen within their companies. With this, I really do feel that having a proper system in place is very important. It gives the staff a criteria for the system to work, and the harmony into maintaining with and within the workspace is very, very important. At Affiniax Partners, our staff are still working from home. We've actually not brought them back into work because they're actually enjoying working remotely. And we feel that we've given them the tools to work remotely. Everything that they require, they have got hands-on, and we're able then to make sure and monitor them on a regular basis to make sure that they are working the hours that are required from them. We have had no issues with this whatsoever, and we feel that we can continue doing this because During this period, we have actually not had a drop in revenue. And because of this, we've actually increased in revenue because we've given them the tools to work outside the business. So actually, we feel that this is a wonderful way of working for them. None of them seem to want to come back into the workplace. I don't think it's because they don't want to. I think it's because they have the tools and they are managing to work efficiently within the organization.
Thank you, Yvonne. Thanks for your wonderful inputs. It's really good to hear that businesses and especially business leaders they believe in empowering people in the Middle East. Yeah, like we are seeing the global trends. Yeah, that businesses are empowering their people with the right tools. And as you mentioned, yeah, two things which stand out. One is obviously collaboration tools, like whether it be Cisco WebEx or Avaya Spaces or Zoom. Yeah, we have a whole range of collaboration tools. And the other thing you mentioned is around cloud, which is again, something which has come up during the panel discussion as well. The importance of us to migrate to cloud, and the third thing you mentioned was around cyber security. Yeah. So to just further delve into that topic of cyber security, I would like to go back to Orlando. So, Orlando, if you can elaborate some of the biggest security concerns that organizations face as they adapt to the new normal.
Well, I would say one of them is, as my predecessor was saying, the secure access for remote employees to corporate assets. That's essential. As an experience, we had to double the licenses we had for our remote access gateway during the beginning of the COVID crisis early this year. And it was unprecedented. We never expected to reach actually the maximum we had at the time, and we had to really run to our partner and vendor to use extended, because that was number one requirement to enable access to more people now working from home. Virtually, we were around almost 90% of the workforce was working from home at the time. So very importantly, security, because you're allowing more people, and sometimes because of the urgency, you are not able to assess the security posture for each new individual joining the domain of remote access. That's very important. That's not to lower our guard in terms of that analysis of who is accessing your infrastructure from home. The access to specific assets is very critical as well for us to reevaluate now during these situations. Is for example, shared drives that we usually manage to attach to the revenue systems applications. And during COVID, even we started to implement having remote phone extensions, which actually made a lot of sense because the volume of calls that we were having internally was all going to the telephone service providers. We were using mobile, so having that element that many IP telephony companies offer to have that mobile extension on your desktop, it proven to be quite cost saving for us to enable that, and as part of the enablement we were doing for remote workers. So some technologies that actually we were aware of, we had to maximize the usage of them, and some others they came as part of innovation. A lot of email security for us was required to actually start filtering more and more. Coincidentally, we saw a rise in spam and email fraud during COVID times. People faking email confirmations or reservations, trying to divert basically willing customers to other places. So email security was very critical, and also data loss prevention. So the ways that we actually ensure that everybody using our systems, whether locally or remotely, they are not using the systems to leak information that could be actually corporate copyright. So having those data loss prevention implementations that actually ensure the protection of the corporate assets and allow at the same time employees and business processes to operate efficiently, I think that was another challenge that we're still working on the finalization of that. And apart from those, I would say also migration of certain applications to the cloud, because we wanted to start reaching during the new normal corporate environments that were outside the boundaries of Atlantis here at the farm. And we needed to have more collaboration from our corporate office. So that migration to the cloud and ensuring the security of that, from the protocols that are enabled to access those websites to the level of credentials or the authentication that you require, and all the checks that we need to put in place. That was also another challenge that we face, and we are still working on that as we speak. I'm saying all these examples coming from the corporate, from what Hotel like Atlantis is doing, but also from the guest perspective, we also face security challenges, because, as you know, touchless is the key right now. Nobody wants to touch anything. You don't want to touch anything that's given to you. And if you can minimize that friction with the guest, he will really appreciate it. So from displaying nowadays QR codes on the tables for menus, for example, that's a basic but very effective example of what security also involves, having those interactions a little bit secure from the guest perspective. And coming to security as well, the mobile key access to rooms. So giving the touchless option to have the mobile on their phones, and the security risk involved in that. So now you have a phone that has your key. How easy is for a IT knowledge based person to actually hack that key from your phone? Also, on that line, we're working on wearables that basically once you're in the hotel, as you know, we have in the hotel has so many options to spend your time. This is a destination resort, as we call it. It's not really a hotel. So you come here, and this is a destination in itself. You have so many things to do, and you just dwell around all of them. So you have a wearable that can take you from your room to a restaurant, then you can go to a water park, then you can go to a shop and buy something, then you can go again to an interaction in the spa, and then you name it. So having a wearable that actually allows you to identify you as a guest and allows you to charge to that wearable whatever activity you're having, with the security that actually only you are going to use that wearable, and nobody else can actually identify themselves with your identity and make use of that functionality, is also a challenge, and is something that is very much sought after in hospitality nowadays. So definitely the security nowadays is paramount, because we have been forced to move out of the comfort zone of the boundaries that we used to have as established by the hospitality industry until last year, and we are now a little bit in the open, more exposed, and that's where security and security providers come into analyzing what we are describing on some of the examples I did, and understanding what we want to do, and allowing us to ensure that experience or that process to be now more flexible, more close to the reality, and at the same time keeping the security that is required to it.
Thank you, Orlando. Thanks for your inputs. You gave some amazing examples, yeah, of how the IT needs for hospitality, are changing, are evolving because of the new normal. And I think that's something very interesting, because I guess everybody can relate to that, can resonate with it. That the needs are evolving, and as the needs of the channel evolve, the needs, the solutions that our vendors are proposing and are coming up with also need to evolve. Yeah. So, and that's the whole objective of this panel. But to take this discussion ahead, I would like to discuss regarding some key learnings in terms of business continuity and resilience that organizations can take away during the whole coronavirus pandemic. There has been a lot of pressure on organizations, and there have been a lot of learnings. So I would like to address my next question to Ahmed. So Ahmed, if you can share your perspective, yeah, some key learnings on business continuity and resilience, that would be great.
So thank you, Tashar. You touched the right point. We all discovered as there is a team that we, on the pandemic time, we had to work from home, and actually it worked. Up to, as Leona said, it team already enjoyed working from home. So being from enjoying tells you it's working, different scale. However, finally we can conclude it is working done. And we are expecting from the new norm that teams are going to decrease the percentage of being on office to outside office to a level of 60% as per our statistics and surveys in the next year. So what we discovered is that people who started the digital transformation early and the resilient point of their infrastructure was that who easily adopted the working from home style. The team that was delayed at that point, it didn't start yet or still in the first phase. They had to start within the pandemic, so it took from them whatever based on the organization size, 2 to 3 to 2 months, sorry, 2 3 weeks to 2 months till they start work. But after 6 months to 9 months now, we are working. So how to be resilient, how to make sure that your infrastructure is resilient. For that is two things. Number one is investing in the platform itself. So the scalability of platform in case we need it, the reliability of the platform, as you all team said, the scalability of the cloud services, and expected that the security attacks over them was a part of the resilience part. The infrastructure of the connectivity and the expected move from being using all from our office to using from our home based on security VPN process or not. So it is part of the resilience of the core network of the infrastructure. Rather than that, the channels, the customer channels, how I'll address my customer, how I'm moving my business from on-shelf, from visits. So the most of the impacted cases, as Orlando said, the hospitality sector, as well as the direct channel, the people who usually go to the other customer face to face or physical. Now they have to talk to them even on the e-commerce channel or even on the collaborations tool to reach them. This point needs the focus from the organization of the IT seniors of the organization to be ready for overall resilience and the challenge. This is my key message for the going forward or adapting with the
Thank you,
new norm.
Ahmed. Thanks for your input.
Thank you.
Through our discussion with the leaders here, the IT leaders here, I think we have been able to understand some key needs which are evolving, yeah, over the past few months as we have been undergoing a pandemic. And also in the panel with us are some vendors, some key vendors in our portfolio. So it would be interesting to understand how our vendors are working to support our customers in the new normal. So I'll start my discussion with Mahir from Palo Alto. So Mahir, we already heard, from a lot of customers in the panel today that one of their biggest concerns is security in the new normal. So I would like you to little elaborate, yeah, on this topic. What, according to you, are the key cybersecurity threats right now, and also if you can outline how Palo Alto is working, yeah, to support the customers.
Sure. Thank you for your question, Tushar. Basically, based on the panel discussion and what Yvonne and Orlando and Ahmed rightfully said, the way we're doing business is changing. We have to cope with the new requirements and the new issues that we're facing. And that is working from home and the changes that accommodate this. So when we're going to use collaboration tools, we need to give our employees and staff access to the systems. The enterprise networks a few years back were not designed for having a workforce which is working 80% to 90% from home. And this introduces challenges. And the challenges are twofold. The first is the architecture of the network has to change to accommodate this requirement. But also with this, when you're changing this architecture, we're opening up and we're seeing some new security threats in the market. So for example, we said that lots of people are working from home, they need access to these essential services from the network. A lot of companies, what they're seeing is they're moving these essential services to the cloud, because that makes it much more feasible from an accessibility perspective for all of these employees. And when adopting the public cloud, new challenges do come in from a security perspective. Now, if you look at different reports out there, for example, one from Oracle and KPMG and other organizations, as well as education sector, they're doing different reports on this. And one of the challenges about adopting public cloud is how can we make sure that the security we used to have on premises is moving with me all the way to the cloud. So you cannot imagine that a company is going to shut off their data center, their physical data center overnight and turn on the public cloud data center. It will be probably a migration path, and then move more and more services to the public cloud. And one of these challenges is, how do I maintain that security that I used to have on premises and make sure that it is going to be sufficient for me in the cloud? The tools that we used to use in the network are not applicable in the cloud. The physical equipment that we used to put in the network, you cannot put physical equipment in the cloud. So these are some of the challenges, but there's also always the challenge of the regular security that is only being compounded. For example, social engineering attacks, which include phishing, spear phishing, and so on. These are applicable whether your services are on premises or they're on the cloud. And as old as this type of attack is, it is something that is very efficient and still being used. And the bad people out there, they're even engineering this even further. They're using automation tools, they're using machine learning, they're using artificial intelligence to make sure that these attacks appear to be as real as possible for these employees. So today, as Orlando was saying, when we have lots of people working from home, and Ahmed was saying that is true, we want to give them that experience. How can we make sure that with the emails that they're getting, the phishing attacks that they're getting, are actually legitimate attacks, or are they a legitimate requests from the IT department or from finance department, and so on. So phishing and social engineering attacks still are one of the biggest attacks that we can see. Ransomware is by no means going down. It's still increasing. With the more adoption of cryptocurrency, this is making it even more feasible for the attackers to adopt ransomware. Because today, if I attack you and encrypt your hard disks and your essential services, you'll pay me with cryptocurrency, and the traceability becomes much more challenging for the law enforcement agencies as well as the defenders. So ransomware is still there. But we did see an uptake in IoT attacks. So more and more devices are being put on the network. So access control, CCTV cameras, your network printers, other devices like the smart home or smart office devices for turning on the light switches and so on. These are challenging by themselves. And we have to keep in mind what the attacker is trying to do. They're trying to find a weak point to enter a network. And then they're going to try to take advantage of that weak point and move throughout the network to gain access to the important information they have. So whether your weak point is in the cloud, or is it on premises, or because it's of IoT devices, we need to be able to secure that. And IoT security is a bit challenging because these IoT devices, they're not like laptops. They're not like workstations. You cannot access them. You cannot see the operating system. You cannot patch them. It's a bit more challenging. And we need to discover these in the first place, because a lot of companies do not know how many IoT devices they have on the network. And that is something that we've discovered with the introduction of the IoT security subscription on Palo Alto Networks. Now, to address your second question, you said, how are we helping this? Innovation of products new products have to be introduced. We need to cope with these changes that the enterprises are going through. So we talked about the move to the public cloud, and now a lot of vendors, including Palo Alto Networks, they're coming up with new products that help you secure your cloud infrastructure. Similarly, on working from home, we need to make sure that the experience that these users are having, whether they're working from home or from a coffee shop or from the office, is uniform across the board. Security has to be uniform across the board, irrespective where your services are.
Thank you,
I hope
Maher.
that addresses your question.
Yes, it does. Thanks for your insights here. I think very good takeaways. Again, it resonated with the concerns that the customers on the panel, highlighted earlier in terms of the increase in the number of cyber attacks. Yeah, so good, great to hear that Palo Alto Networks is, doing everything to support the customers. As they adopt to this new normal and as their needs for cybersecurity are evolving. To further delve into this topic of what our vendors are doing to support our customers in terms of cybersecurity, I would like to uh, discuss with Tarek. So, Tarek, how do you think the security teams can keep themselves ahead of the attackers? Because the attackers are, again, they are innovating at a super rate. Yeah. So, how do the security teams make sure that they outpace the attackers' innovation?
Thank you very much, Tushar, for inviting us for the session, and it's lots of valuable insight from the panelists. And frankly, we're living in a very interesting time. I think the changes that we've seen within the last couple of months, it's quite impressive. It's been driving innovation, transition, adoption of new technologies, and so forth. But going back to the question is, I would love to take one step back and look on the key founding pillars. When Cybereason founders really wanted to start this company, which really tied up to this concept. First of all, the founders who started Cybereason, they're coming from offensive background operation. That means they used to be what we call them today, the nation state type of hackers. So they've been there, they have this type of mentality, they understand how these nation state hackers operate and how they function. And at that time, when they really wanted to build technology that can address these, evolving challenges, they really looked into a couple of key points. First of all, is that there is no wall that is high enough. I don't know if you watch any of the Game of Thrones, series, you remember this big wall and so forth. And they, from their past career, they tell us that their success rate to penetrate any organization was 100%. So any organization that apply and go 100% into their prevention mechanism, it's proven it's not efficient. It's, the cyber criminal will always find a way that they will be able to surpass these kind of prevention mechanism. So this is the first observation. The second observation that they saw is, the attack surface is increasing. 30 years ago, all the endpoint or workstations or server at that time were separate. It wasn't connected to the network, but still cyber criminal, they were able to build on that. If we look to the last, how things has evolved from moving to centralized network to moving down to cloud, that is putting more and more risk for the organization. And security decision maker, they're moving from the concept of what we call it, securing the endpoint or securing the enterprise, to what we call it the securing of everything. Not to mention right now with the introduction of the 5G, for example, and the vast connectivity that will provide cyber attackers in the ability to penetrate organization, copy data in a much faster rate than it used to be. And this is make it more challenging than before. And I think the third pillar is what most of the security team, I think it's a very well used known term that they always say that the cyber criminal has to be all the defenders need to be right all the time, and the cyber criminal, they need to be only right once, and if they're right once, they will be able to penetrate organization. And this is something comes from the core founding story of Cybereason, because we do believe that we really wanted to create technology that can disrupt this concept. So what we really wanted to do is that in order for a cyber criminal to penetrate an organization, they have to be 100% right all the time. Which means that when we really created this technology, that we really wanted to be able to detect these cyber criminals at every stage on the attack. So if they manage to split any of these stages, we'll be able to detect them at a different stage. And looking to the current environment where we're changing, like organization, they used to be on-prem, now they're trying to shift to cloud. We see customers now, they're going into different phases. Some of their technologies or application or infrastructure, they managed to move it cloud. Some of them still exist in the on-premise. Some of them, they cannot do it due to regulatory factors. So having a vendor that provides you the flexibility and adaptability to apply different mechanisms, provide you the security during that transition is becoming more and more important. And the last point, I think what Mr. Capley, I think, mentioned, and even Mr. Orlando touched into it, is the mobile security. There is no doubt, and right now with people moving more out of the traditional enterprise premises, they're becoming more dependent on their smart devices. Statistics shows now employees, they more than 60 to 70% chances to open their email through their mobile than their traditional workstation or laptops. And as a result, that's create a completely different attack vectors for the security team that they need to protect, right? Still, unfortunately, here in the region, the majority of the focus still into the endpoint, trying to fix the enterprise itself. But right now, trends are shifting, and this is what creating a big opportunity for the
Thank you, Tarek. Thanks for your inputs. One more question from my side. Yeah, so EPP and EDR is again a very crowded sector. Yeah, so there are vendors who are as old as 30 years. Yeah, how is Cyber Reason differentiating? Yeah, and how are you guys innovating?
So we really, like this is a crowded market, there is no doubt, but still it's one of the most innovative market. We see lots of innovation, lots of vendors, coming with quite interesting technologies and adapting. And this has come, I think, from, first of all, the market opportunity as well as the market need, right? Still the endpoint is one of the largest risk for any organization. We're talking either the endpoint or the servers or even the mobile devices. We saw the shift from the traditional endpoint to the EDR to the XDR of the protection of everything when we're providing the extended enterprise. And I think each vendor has its own value proposition, right? From Cyber Reason, we coming from the defender point of view. So we always, come jointly to support our clients to having the latest capability that really provide them with the ability to defend and be able to detect these kind of advanced attacks. And we're coming from the understanding on how these nation state hackers operate and what is the best way to think like them and be able to stop them. So that's why we always try to onboard, like most of our team, they're coming from intelligence, military experiences, and even top enterprise organization that we bring these top minds in order to continually innovate within our technology and be able to support the Defenders League in their continuous risk
management. Thank you, Tarek. Thanks for your inputs there. Guys, as we saw, during the panel, when we spoke to our customers, so there were two things two big concerns that they highlighted, or two trends which were evolving. So one obviously being security. The other one has been around communication, communication solutions. So I would now like to invite Adele to take over the discussion with our other vendors in the panel, on how the communication solutions are evolving and what they are doing in terms of innovation.
Thank you very much, Tushar. As we all know, obviously, as organizations today adapt to this new way of working, video conferencing applications have taken center stage for many enterprises. Companies across the globe are implementing virtual meeting apps, and in fact, a Fortune Business Insights report has highlighted that the web conferencing market is expected to reach $10.46 billion by 2027. So with this in mind, I'd like to ask Sumed from Avaya, as one of the key players in this area, how is Avaya innovating to ensure that they keep the balance between ease of use and data privacy and productivity for the users?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Adil, for posing that great and important question. Because lately we've seen a sudden proliferation of meeting and collaboration apps. Now, it's actually crucial to identify the right tool encompassing all those elements to ensure the user productivity. Now, Gartner quotes that you cannot become a digital business unless you have a digital workplace. As over the next decade, the user experience for digital worker is going to undergo a phenomenal transformation. And the model which will emerge is a multi-experience model that will connect people with nuanced information, irrespective of location, devices, and collaboration communication platform user might be using it. So when we look into the new decade and a new technology frontier, experience or the answer cannot lie in dozens of those disparate collaboration apps, but just one single productive tool. And Avaya delivers to those expectations pretty well using a single standalone app called Avaya Spaces. How is Avaya Spaces? It's actually an intuitive, unique, all-in-one, simple, feature-rich, secured, obviously at the same time, and resilient public cloud-based meeting app. Now, empowering the user with a digital workplace which is capable to do direct messaging, group messaging, file storage, file sharing, task management, and besides the core video conferencing functionality. Now, obviously at a convenience of either a web browser or a mobile app, or decluttering users, that multiple workspaces into just single one workspace itself. Interestingly, our spaces also integrates well with users' own business applications by means of plugins or APIs and SDK. From security standpoint, the meeting and data exchange is secure, protected, and access to the data is also controlled using user-based rules. Now, what makes spaces the most secure is a unique feature called private spaces. Now, that allows only members and admin to enter into a digital workspace, and anyone outside not intended of this group, automatically the access is blocked. In addition to that, also Avaya Spaces is capable and supports all those regulations related to GDPR and HIPAA compliances, which ensures data protection and data privacy. Moreover, we do not monetize nor the data what we collect use for advertising purpose. And the results are evident with the phenomenal success Avaya Spaces has achieved so far. Thanks to the customers who have really helped us, and traffic of the spaces has outgrown over 3,000% since the beginning of the year. Avaya Spaces is the fastest growing app among the wider portfolio of Avaya, where almost a new feature being released every fortnight. Recently, we've introduced a 61-party view, which is unique and the highest in the industry, which allows the maximum view for all the participants. And plus more AI-powered innovative features are lined up shortly. Proud to also mention that this month, Avaya Spaces is featured in Gartner's Magic Quadrant, just merely within 9 to 10 months of its launch. So to sum up, Avaya Spaces is a perfect blend of all those elements, which you mentioned, Adil, about to ensure the successful business outcome.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Sumit. Thank you for sharing how you guys are, transforming your solutions in order to support enterprises today. Another key player in the cloud and communication space that we have today is Oracle Communications. So Hubert, I just wanted to get your insights into, for Oracle Communications, how are you guys ensuring that enterprises today are focusing on the communications aspect into their digital transformation journeys?
Sure. Thank you, Adele, for giving me the opportunity to share our experience. Of course, we all see globally a continuous increase in demand and from the enterprises and service providers to allow remote working. The COVID-19 shined a bright light on every company not prepared to recover from any outage. And the teams now and the employees are now focusing more and more in improving resilience. So one observation that we see in that many companies and institutions have moved rapidly to the home office model. And as it was already mentioned by some other panelists, there has been a strong interest in investigating and deploying differentiated collaboration services. We mentioned Microsoft Teams or Zoom or this kind of services. And at Oracle, we are offering cloud services, edge security, SD-WAN, and such other solutions that allow to deliver these services in a secure and cost-effective way. And another observation is how the remote working highlighted the need for mobile operators to customize customer experience and quality of service, especially for mobile and voice, mobile data and voice, sorry. And our policy management solution is providing advanced capabilities and is heavily reducing complexity to help the operators meet these challenges. Lastly, we see that the pandemic not only turned hundreds of millions of office of workers into remote workers overnight, it has as well changed how every IT departments and development shops are working. Without the public cloud applications, without any development tools and the right architecture and infrastructure available on demand to every business, can you imagine how different the pandemic response would have been? For example, we are seeing significant demand for cloud services since we have launched our Oracle Cloud infrastructure in Saudi Arabia and UAE. And this is opening new business opportunities for partners and enterprises who will need to leverage highly secure and highly available cloud services in the region. Just to give some examples. So thank you, and over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Hubert.
Adele.
If you can also share some insights into Oracle Communications cloud roadmap in the coming months.
So it's what we believe is in 2021, cloud will power how companies adapt to the new and stable normal. So no one knows how far into 2021 we will continue to work from home and continue to buy, to purchase online, for example. But it's clear that every company will need to become more secure, more agile, more responsive, and more adaptive to the market than ever before. So the increase in remote working and network capacity demand is paramount to have secure solutions by design. At Oracle, security is part of our DNA and is considered in every aspect of our solutions and services. Security provides a framework to deliver services with the required levels of quality of service and customer experience. But also it protects the users and providers from fraud and malicious activities. So what we observe is that with the take-up of 5G, service-based architectures, HTTPS networks, and so on are becoming more open and therefore more vulnerable. With our secure native 5G core offering, we are implementing best-of-breed signaling and routing solutions to protect networks and the end-user privacy. For instance, most of us today are using mobile banking, home banking over public network connectivity. In the roadmap, we believe that the security of these networks is critical to both the end user and service provider. We continue to support our existing customers by offering differentiated fraud monitoring solutions and to allow providers to reduce their exposure to loss of revenues, loss of reputation, which can lead as well to legal actions. Finally, we are more and more having customers asking us to bring value-added IoT business models. We didn't talk too much about IoT, but this is what we see. And they are asking us to have these business models to be brought to life using and leveraging SaaS and cloud solutions. again, for example, on top of our Oracle Cloud infrastructure and experience.
Thank
Over
you so
to you,
much,
Adele.
Hubert.
Thank
You for sharing those wonderful insights. Tushar, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Adele, and thank you, Bert. So it's been really interesting for us to hear from our customers on how their needs are evolving, and then to understand from the vendors in the panel today on what they are doing in terms of innovation to support these evolving needs of our customers. Yeah, to close the session, I would just like to go around, in the panel and ask you guys to share that one key takeaway that you would like our attendees to take from this panel. Yeah, and I'll start with Mahir. So Mahir, if you can share one key takeaway, yeah, that organizations need to keep in mind as they adapt to the new normal, or anything that you feel has been the key highlight from the panel today.
So I would say that change is there. Change is the only constant in the new world and the new way of doing things. This is a challenge, but with all these panelists, with all the different vendors that you're hosting today, I believe that we can solve these issues. We can help you overcome these challenges, but we have to take them step by step and keep an open mind on what are the challenges we're facing, the actual challenges that we're facing, and how we can best help you out with solving these challenges. But there's always solutions out there. So keep up the good work and reach out for any
Very well
assistance
said,
you might
Mahir. Thank you
require.
for your insights. I'll now like to move to Ahmed. Ahmed, if you can also give us that one key takeaway for our attendees today.
So from this great discussion, I am always advise all our IT leaders focus on digital resilience of their digital infrastructure. Be ready for the new norm. The new norm is fact. Be ready for the communication style between the MVE, the mix between this hybrid mode, is in fact that we are live with it. So prepare for that investment. Prepare for being ahead of any changes coming.
Thank you, Ahmed. I think that's wonderful advice that organizations can take, maintaining business resilience, and yes, making sure that they are making the right investments. Thank you for your inputs. Over to you, Yvonne. Any takeaways for our attendees, or any advice you would like to give to the IT leaders out there in the market?
Yes, the world is changing, and we're not going to get back to normality in any shape or form, and we have to go with the flow. So I always advise companies to look at business impact analysis, look at what is happening within their companies, and then think about doing a business continuity plan, because you don't know what's going to be around that corner. We've had this pandemic that's come along. You don't know if there is going to be something that will impact their business again. So you need to start strategizing now, making sure that you have a business continuity plan. Make sure that you have your processes and procedures in place, that you can be up and running within hours, not days and weeks, which has actually happened to a lot of corporates. So do some auditing of your companies, look at what you're doing, outsource it if you're not sure about how to do this. A lot of people are outsourcing their businesses, the requirements that they need, and make sure that you have everything covered
Thank you,
within
Yvonne.
your company.
Thanks for those insights. And moving on to Orlando. Orlando, what's that one key takeaway you would like our attendees to take? So the IT leaders out there, as well as the sellers who are attending us, they need to be supporting the end customer. So any message, how to resell a community as well?
Well, I think in sync with my participants, my fellow participants here, is to keep in mind the current situations, and according with that, accept the unexpected and dynamics that are happening nowadays. as something that is going to be here to stay, and in general also to reimagine the business. So having all the processes, all the corporate culture we had and we took for granted during all these years, and trying to look at it with a new perspective. I think that's very important. It's imperative nowadays for companies who want to project themselves outside the COVID reality and into the future with a more robust perspective of what the role of IT should be on companies nowadays. I think that should be aligned with defining a very strong digital transformation strategy together with cloud strategies. I think that's essential nowadays. Companies who have taken that very lenient until today, I think this is a call for the urgency to pay attention to that. I think that's essential, and specifically having a focus on profitability and guest experience. For us in Atlantis, that's key. I mean, having that focus is what determines that the transformation occurs in the correct terms, and it's actually approved by the corporate that is handling those strategies. And I think that goes well in alignment with the partner and vendors that actually can drive transformation based on these terms. So the choice of partners and vendors that actually understand these needs, these constraints from the client like us, I think that's also a very delicate exercise. More and more, we are very cautious in terms of evaluating a partner or evaluating a vendor, and trying to understand if this partner really understands what we are requiring, or has the full support of the vendor behind with the right technology for us to adopt. Because again, we are in the very critical times, and more we have to be very cautious to move ahead with projects and move ahead with the strategies that will enable the business. So I think in summary, the digital transformation, the embracement of that, and a strong cloud strategy is essential nowadays to the business.
Moving on to Rupert. But
Thank you.
key takeaways that you would like IT leaders to take from the panel discussion today.
So are you asking me here? Yeah, sorry, the line was not so good. Yeah, thank you. So the key takeaways I would say is, as we mentioned, the market and the world are changing very rapidly. So first, I would say that people are key assets and need to be resilient, as we mentioned, and need to have the capability of adapting to the new world and the new normal. Second, I would say that the organizations need to transform rapidly in order to succeed and remain on the top. And third, what I would conclude is that in order to succeed, we need to leverage on the technology and on the innovation, and of course this will allow to stay safe.
Thank you, Hubert. Moving on to Sumed. Sumed, please share what key takeaways you would like IT leaders to take, and also partners. I know that the vendors are innovating. Yeah. So what's the roadmap you would like the partners to take as you guys innovate?
Definitely, Tushar. In fact, my takeaway for the audience is the remote working is a new norm, and it's continued to stay here for at least a midterm. Now, hence, whether it's, let's say, end customer or a partner, just review your collaboration strategy, adopt it to ensure the continued productivity and desired business outcome what you're seeking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sumed. And finally, over to you, Tarek, if you can share your thoughts as well.
Thank you. The panelists make it more challenging. So actually, I think the main takeaway I would say is really about staying safe. And here it's not about the individual, but also as a team, as well as an enterprise. And safe, not only physically, but also mentally, as well as digitally. So I think this is a very important aspect that every, audience I would really recommend to take. The second takeaway is I would really recommend to view this as an ever-evolving process. It's a never-ending process. There is a wealth of knowledge. reach out to it with an open mind. Talk to lots of partners. There is lots of vendors that have innovated and they have figured out lots of solutions that for lots of the challenges that exist right now. So approach it with an open mind. Find what suits you. Find the right partners that you can count on and be able to achieve, like what you're looking to reach out into this journey. And last but not least is, like communicate with your teams, communicate with your peers, communicate with even other industry peers that they can share where they are in this journey and what they have learned from that. That can speed up this process even for your adoption. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tarek. And a big thanks to all of you for joining us in this panel discussion. We hope that our attendees, especially our partners, they are able to understand how needs of the customers are evolving, how vendors are innovating, and they can adapt to in this journey to support our customers. So thank you once again. It was a pleasure to have you guys, and we look forward to seeing you in our future events.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello.
So we can leave?
Yes, you guys can leave. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Amazing.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Take care.
Guys, this was the recorded session that will be presented on the event date, right?
Yes, it will be played 11th. We'll share the link.
Thank you. Thank you for your effort. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, just bye.